Hello. I hope everybody would be all right. So today I have come up with a very interesting topic that is related to the great philosophers of human history, and you can call them the philosophers of Greece, or you can call them the pioneers who have done a great job for the sake of philosophy. So the question that is in front of you was Aristotle jealous of Plato, the student-teacher rivalry. So this is quite an informal topic, and I just wanted to share some of the views related to these two great people. And I'm not favoring any of them. I just realized that both of them they have contributed well for the proliferation of philosophy. So they are the great teachers. And whenever we talk about philosophy, these two minds, and other than Socrates and many of the other Greek philosophers like Zeno and all other, but still these two they have a very great place in the history of philosophy, and they have a direct contact with one another, as Plato had contact with Socrates, so he was direct student of Socrates. So Aristotle was direct student of Plato. So was Aristotle jealous of Plato? That is the question. So what do you think? Maybe you can comment in in the comment box. So it doesn't mean that I just think that I am for Aristotle, or I am for Plato, or I'm against any of them. No, I'm not against anybody, but still I will share some of the views to tell you whether they have some sort of jealousy, or whether only Aristotle is jealous of Plato. So this is the statue of one of the great philosophers, Plato, and then you can have a look on Aristotle. Okay, so Plato and Aristotle, both student and teacher, and Plato's views about Aristotle. This is very much interesting. So, what Plato thinks about Aristotle and what Aristotle thinks about Plato, these two things, they are important. So Plato recognized the greatness of this strange new pupil from this supposedly barbarian north. Okay, certainly he was from Macedonia, and spoke to him once as the nurse of the academy, as if to say he is intelligence personified. So this is what Plato said about Aristotle, intelligence personified. So if anyone wants to look at the most intelligent student Plato is inviting, look at my student Aristotle. He is a walking intelligence. Okay, so he shows intelligence. He is the embodiment of intelligence. And along with that, Aristotle has a very good collection of books. So he used to spend a lot of money on books. Even after that, when he was teaching uh, Alexander the Great. So there, Alexander the Great, he has helped a lot. He has helped Aristotle a lot to collect many of the things, many of the books, and many of the plants from all over the world. So he has given a lot of what we call amount or fund to Aristotle to do all these things. So I mean, before that, Aristotle had spent lavishly in the collection of books, and that is in those printless days manuscripts, certainly not books, manuscripts. So he was the first after Euripides. Euripides, one of the greatest dramatists, okay, along with Sophocles and Aeschylus and Aristophanes. So Euripides was one of the rebellious uh, dramatist. You can say he was a rebel in nature. He used to think differently. He used to write on different sort of topics, though he didn't get that much fame in his own age. At that time, first Aeschylus and then Euripides, he was very much famous, and he used to win prizes at at different festivals, but still Euripides were one of the greatest dramatists. So after Euripides, together a library, and the foundation of the principles of library classification was among his most contribution to scholarship. Therefore, what Plato said, Plato spoke of Aristotle's home as the house of the reader, and seems to have meant the sincerest compliment. So certainly he thinks that Aristotle is a person who has a large collection of books, and Aristotle is a person who has lust for books. So he loves books. So that is why he says that house, okay, the house of the reader, and it seems a very sincerest compliment. But some of the ancient gossip that was there, that the master intended a sly but vigorous dig at a certain bookwormishness. I mean, Aristotle maybe some of some of the some of the people, they just think that maybe he is jealous of his student, that his student has a lot of manuscripts, so he has that much lust for knowledge, and that is why he has said that. But I sincerely think that Plato was not thinking negatively of Aristotle's collection of books, but he was paying a compliment, a tribute to his love for knowledge. And what Aristotle thinks, this was what that Plato has said that Aristotle, he is intelligence personified, so his house is the house of the readers and all other. But what Aristotle thinks of Plato, a more authentic world seems to have arisen toward the end of Plato's life. Okay, so that was, means people, they were just thinking one of the greatest philosophers is going to die. So there was a bit of disappointment onto the faces of the students and all other. So our ambitious youth, our Aristotle, apparently developed in, you can say, Oedipus complex, but now what Sigmund Freud has said. So a jealousy for father. So actually, he was not biological father. Plato was not biological father to Aristotle, but still, we can feel that there was an Oedipus complex. Oedipus complex in the sense that he was a bit of against his spiritual father. So an Oedipus complex against his spiritual father for the favors and affections of philosophy. Okay, so certainly uh, he wanted to have mastery over things. Plato is the master. So that is why he 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 does not have that much regret or disappointment that Plato is just leading to his end and all other, but and begin to hint that when this shows that his jealousy. Wisdom would not die with Plato. Okay, so wisdom would not die with Plato. So he was thinking, maybe he would take the place of that man. So it's all right if he is dying. So that is why he is saying this wisdom would not die with Plato. And what Plato thinks of these remarks, what Plato thinks of Aristotle when he shows this kind of attitude. The old sage spoke of his student or pupil as a foal that kicks his mother after draining her dry. Okay, so he has taken all those things from all that knowledge from Plato, and now he is thinking that wisdom would not die with Plato. From where that wisdom has come to Aristotle, we cannot deny that it was Plato who has imparted wisdom into the mind of Aristotle. But what Aristotle is saying, wisdom would not die. Certainly, wisdom is transferred from one mind to another. That is all right. But when a student is saying something about the teacher or the spiritual father, something like this, we can feel that there is some sort of the fire, okay, a sort of jealousy that was in the mind of Aristotle. And what Shakespeare has said, jealousy is a green eye monster. Okay. So I'm not saying that 100% that jealousy was there, but you can just have a glimpse of that jealousy, and that is a tinge of jealousy. That is in the words of Aristotle. And the basic difference between these two philosophers, and that difference has been there throughout uh, the history of Western philosophy, and that was the clash of realists and nominalists. Okay, so realists, most of the time you may have heard that Aristotle is a realist, and Plato is idealist. But here we we just name that Plato is considered to be a realist, and Aristotle is considered to be the nominalist. Okay, so what uh, means what Plato thinks? Plato thinks universal exists, and Aristotle thinks that universal does not exist. Universal is only a concept. Okay, so here a universal to Aristotle is any common noun, any name capable of universal application to the members of a class, like we say man, book, tree. They are universals. They are the names. But these universal subjective notions, according to Aristotle, not tangibly objective realities. He says that there is no universal. Objectively, there is no universal. Okay, so they are nomina. He says names and not rest things. Okay, they are only names. All that exists outside us is a world of individuals and specific objects, not generic or universal things. He says men exist and trees and animals, but man in general or the universal man does not exist except in thought. This is what Aristotle thinks, that he only exists in thought. Universal man only exists in thought. There is no universal man. And you cannot say any man, he is a universal man, or that Ali is a universal man, or Aslam is a universal man, or George is a universal man. Every man is an individual. Okay. So here, Aristotle's point of view looks quite strong, that every man is an individual. So universal does not exist. We only try to classify things, and that is why we have introduced certain names. And what are those names? Man. Okay, so this is the classification. So book is the classification, or tree is the classification, but it doesn't mean that all are the same, or we can just say they are general or universal. When you just meet one particular person, he is quite individual, he is quite different. So man, the title that is used for man, it does not means in individual terms, it does not exist. Okay, it only exists in thought. So he is a handy mental. So that man is a handy mental abstraction, he says, not an external presence or reality. Okay, so it is only man is only a noun. Okay, so any name capable of universal application to the member of a class. So animal, man, book, tree are universals, but the universals are subjective notions, not tangibly objective realities. Okay, so this is what he says. And uh, and certainly mean some of the things they have been given here, they are repeated. I think so. And that is why this was the concept. This was Aristotelian concept, that Aristotle says that man is only a name. Man cannot be universal. So universal does not exist. Universal exists only in thought. Universal does not exist in reality. And then what Plato says. Plato had said that universal is comparably more lasting and important and substantial than the individual. He says universal persists. So it's just like when Keats says that beauty is truth and truth beauty. So universal exists. So when Keats talks about the nightingale, and he thinks the voice of the nightingale, of the song of the nightingale, that would last forever and it is not going to end, and all other. So certainly he is not talking about that particular nightingale. He thinks that the nightingale, it would die. Certainly if it is a bird, it would die. But that song, the concept of the nightingale, that would not die. Okay, so he says that is lasting, that is substantial. So actually that concept is more lasting and substantial as compared to the individual. So this is Plato's point of view. So the latter being but a little wavelet in the ceaseless surf. The latter mean the individual ceaseless surf of the concept that is continued, or universality that is continued, generality that is continued, but that individual is just one part. It comes and it goes. It does not last forever. That is why he says men come and go, but man goes on forever. And here Aristotle is different. He thinks no, man goes on forever. So what man? In reality, that man does not exist. So that is only a concept. So here, the views of these two philosophers, they were different, and still they, the the debate is going on. You cannot say this debate has been concluded. So who was right among these two people? We cannot say anything, because both of the concepts, they have their strengths, they have their weaknesses, and they have their strengths, and we cannot completely reject them. And then Aristotle, okay, thinking about Plato's point of view, Aristotle is a matter of fact mind. This is what William James say: a tough, not a tender mind. He sees the root of endless mysticism and scholarly nonsense in this Platonic realism. Okay, so that is why something that exists in the outer world, like when Plato has written the book, The Republic, so he had in his mind that universal, okay, it exists forever and all over, it does not die. Okay, so that concept remains. So here, what Aristotle is doing, he is putting an end to that kind of mysticism and scholarly nonsense what Plato has introduced. This is what William James says. I'm not saying that one, and he attacks it with all the vigor of first polemic. So what was in Aristotle's mind? William James thinks that as Brutus loved not Caesar less, but Rome more. So when Brutus, he along with other members of Roman council, they killed Caesar, the one of the heroes of Shakespearean tragedies. There, means Caesar, he has conquered many of the areas, and people of the council, they just put something in Brutus' mind that Caesar is going to have the ultimate power. So he would be a menace or threat to Rome. So he must be killed. So Brutus, he though he was he was considered to be a very sincere and selfless man, and Caesar considered him his bosom friend. But along with other people, Brutus, he killed Caesar, and when Caesar looks at Brutus among the killers, he says, "You too, Brutus. Okay, you are also included into my killers." Okay, so certainly, what people say, the Brutus loved not Caesar less. Okay, so you cannot say that Brutus loved Caesar less. Okay, but Brutus loved Rome more. So here they say no, means Aristotle, he was not that much against Plato. He was against the philosophy he was putting. So you can just say that philosophy was dearer to Aristotle as compared to Plato. So that is what Aristotle says. Dear is Plato, but dearer still is truth. So he was thinking that whatever he is projecting, that is truth, and he must not accept what his master is saying, what his teacher is saying. And that is why he says, dear is Plato, but dearer still is truth. But can we say that whatever he has presented, that was truth, and whatever Plato has presented, that was not true, that was not based on truth? So certainly these are speculations, but Aristotle was very much convinced that whatever he is saying, that is truth, and Aristotle was and Plato was not on that truth, and that is why he must reject him. So in this way, that this looks like an educational debate, but still, to some extent, you can just feel that how did Aristotle know that whatever he is projecting, that is true, and whatever Plato has projected, that is not true. Okay, so Now there comes whether there was a rivalry or jealousy. A hostile commentator might remark that Aristotle, like Nietzsche, criticizes Plato so keenly because he is conscious of having borrowed from him generously. So, if you have borrowed something from somebody, and if you have borrowed generously, so you want that person should be dead so that nobody should bother you. Okay, so you want to have a full command over things, a full mastery over things. So that is why no man is a hero to his debtors. And Aristotle has borrowed a lot from Plato. So you may think that he wants that he should have a complete command over that knowledge, or he should have the complete ownership over that knowledge. So maybe this is the hostile commentary, but this may be viewed. On the other hand, yet is the humor of history. This young warrior, this Aristotle, this young warrior takes over many of the qualities of the old master whom he assaults, okay, whom he attacks. So many of the qualities are there. So he must have acknowledged that those qualities. So he must not have said wisdom would not die with Plato. Okay, we have always goodly stock in us of that which we condemned. And most of the time, what we condemned, we have goodly stuff in there. Like people, they keep on criticizing certain habits of the other people, and sometimes they themselves are missing those habits because maybe they do not have the courage, they do not have that kind of facilities, and they are unable to fulfill those things. So we are good as long as we do not have opportunity to do bad. So that is what he was condemning that man. So we have always goodly stock in us of that which we condemn, as only similars can be profitably contrasted. So similar, okay, they can be properly contrasted. So you cannot say that whatever Aristotle has said, that was Aristotle's own knowledge, and he has not borrowed anything. He has not got anything from. He's not acquired anything from Plato. Certainly, he has got a lot of things, and because of those ideas, he has built new ideas. And if there had not been any ideas of Plato in Aristotle's mind, how would he have how would he have been able to create new ideas? So similarities were there, and out of those similarities, there arises a contrast, okay, a dissimilar thing. So only similar people quarrel, and the bitterest wars are over the slightest variations of purpose and beliefs, and you can disprove these things looking at human history, what has been happening. The slightest variation, you can even look at your own country, that when we talk about religious sectarianism and all of that. So most of the fights and most of the killing, they have been done over slightest variations in beliefs. So this has been happening. So you can also say that there were slightest variations in the beliefs of Aristotle and Plato, but Aristotle was behaving as if he is presenting something very much different from, from Plato. So Aristotle is so ruthless, okay, with Plato, because there is so much of Plato in him. Okay, so that is important. So much of Plato in him. He too remains a lover of abstraction. Certainly, he himself. Okay, so when we talk about Alexander the Great, so what was there that Aristotle loved in Alexander the Great, because he was just thinking that Alexander the Great is bringing order into this chaotic world, as he is bringing order in the chaotic world of ideas and concepts. So student and teacher, Aristotle and Alexander the Great, they were doing somewhat the same thing. One was doing the philosophical struggle to bring the world into order, and one was doing political struggle to bring the world into one order. And that is why Aristotle, all the time, he has been a staunch supporter of Alexander the Great's voyages, or Alexander the Great's adventures. Why? Because he wanted to have that order, the political and the philosophical order in different domains. So he himself was the lover of abstraction. So even when he says that this is a concept, okay, universal is only a concept external, but still it is a concept. Okay, so when it is a concept, so it is general. So repeatedly betraying the simple fact, or for some speciously uh, Bayesian theory, and compelled to a continuous struggle to conquer his philosophical passion for exploring the Empyrean. Okay, so certainly that is happening in his mind. So whatever he has been saying against Plato, he himself has been doing in his life. So he himself sometimes like William Wordsworth, he used to say that the language of the poet should be that much simple, ordinary language of the ordinary man. But if you just read his lyrical ballads, and if you just read Prelude, you will come to know that his language is not the language of the common man. So he himself has been uh, or you can say, backing out of his own notions, his own concepts. So this has been happening with Aristotle too. So the question arises, why he was that much ruthless to Plato? Why did he say that wisdom would not die with him? And was there much difference between the two? Or was there that jealousy? You can yourself decide. So my conclusion is, okay, jealousy against Plato. Aristotle's jealousy against Plato cannot be overruled. So this is all I wanted to say. Means you can just also there was another purpose of this video to create curiosity into your mind, to just dig out the philosophies of these two great philosophers and make your own point of views about them, and see what they say, where lies the where lies the difference, and where lies the similarities. Thank you very much.